to do a talk today, update, and when I was thinking about what to do, I'm asked a lot from developers about funding. Games funding seems to be the number one issue, I think, for many developers. Visibility is the other one, but I think funding is the main issue. So I thought I'd do a brief sort of dash through a few options for you if you're looking for funding. This is a huge topic actually, and I run an event in London called the Game Horizon Investment Summit, which I'll explain a bit about later. But that is an opportunity to meet a lot of investors and publishers and platform holders and folks that can fund your games. So if I just start on a bit of my background, I'm a geek basically. There's me playing on a sort of Tandy TRS-82 before many of you were born, back in the sort of late 70s, early 80s. I got into the games industry as a games journalist. I joined Arcade magazine, which is kind of multi-format, in 1999. And then I eventually ended up editing PC Zone, which was, apparently it's a legendary magazine. It means it's dead, doesn't exist anymore. And I drove it into the ground. Basically, it's kind of known for, it's kind of a mixture of Viz and Which Computer Game magazine, but it was famous for having Charlie Brooker as one of its alumni. I then, obviously, yeah, I've got to mention kind of Skywalker Ranch as well, that I went to, and stayed in the same hotel that Clint Eastwood stayed at the week before. Just wanted to throw that in there, you know, it's completely irrelevant, but I just wanted to show you the kind of things you can get up to if you're a games journalist. Then I kind of moved up north and got a job working at Game Republic, which is a games network based in Yorkshire. It was initially publicly funded. That funding was cut due to different changes of government. So I now run it independently, privately. So this is just a few of the things that I get up to. Just another excuse to show off, really. So that's kind of Kenny Baker out of Star Wars. I did an event with like a robots event. He played R2-D2, and I helped run for the last few years the Bradford Animation Festival. That's Mr. Warren Spector, Deus Ex, etc. And I took him to Nando's, which was brilliant. So I don't know if he'll ever be back again to the north of England. So yeah, lots of stuff. A brief bit about Game Republic. It was set up 10 years ago, 11 years ago now, by folks like Charles Cecil there from Revolution. It was basically just a way of giving developers a loud voice, lots of opportunities to get funding, that sort of thing. This was our 10th birthday party last year. The main thing that Game Republic, what we're focused on is business. This is a business network, so the events that we do every month, we have, I'll show you basically. We've got sort of more than 60 members, including GameSpark, who are sponsoring today, Team 17 who are here as well. 60 members, including developers, universities, and lots of support industries as well. Yeah, these are some of the guys that we've had up to the region, also that we're connected with. So basically, it's about getting you guys in front of these guys who can make a difference. The folks that, often the individuals actually, who can make a real difference to your company. So anyway, enough of my blurb. That's me looking really cool, wearing the Project Morpheus thing at GDC. And this brings us on to the first bit of funding advice, is that UK Trade and Investment. If you don't know about UKTI, they're a government agency basically, but they fund businesses to go to international events such as GDC. So you can get, well, last year it was up to £3,000. I think it's up to £1,000 match funding now. But it's still money that the government gives to you to go to these international events. And the Hypersloth guys at the back there, and they had some funding from UKTI. So it's definitely worth looking into if you haven't already. It's really quite a good thing. So indie games funding. So it's an odd thing to sort of start with, but one of the things that I hear a lot when I'm doing the funding events is sort of advice from people who have gone for funding and from actual investors as well, is that if you can fund it yourself, do it, because there's a lot of work that goes into finding investment. Often with, for example, with venture capitalists, it can take more than a year. If you're chasing any public funding, there's always strings attached. It's always hoops to jump through and paperwork to do and things like that. So if you're just making a game, you've got a team together and you don't really need funding, just make the damn game, get it out there. Or if you're doing, for example, like the Project Zomboid folks, get an alpha out there, get people buying your game already and funding it. That's honestly the best way of going about it. And you'll be in a much stronger position further down the line because the game will be more finished and you won't be actually more desperate for money. So you'll be in a better position, you'll be able to keep hold of your IP, your intellectual property, more likely. Because if you go for funding earlier stage, it's riskier for investors, and that includes platform holders as well. So I would advise, if you can, fund it yourself. Because I think they call it the, in the sort of finance industry, the 3 Fs. Friends, family and fools. So that's if you fund it yourself. So, a bit about public funding. This is very much, again, a sort of skim across the surface. I tend to do, with Game Republic, I can give out information, a lot more information on kind of all the public funders, but this is just to give you an idea of the sort of money that's out there. There's an organisation called the Technology Strategy Board, I see tomorrow, and basically they put out calls for innovation in tech. So, for example, they had one recently that was about wearable tech, and they have like pots of £25,000 to give out. There is a call at the moment, I think, for big data that's backed by Google and I think Microsoft, might be involved. But again, they're looking for interesting ideas about innovation tech. This, for example, is a game that was based on predicting sports results, and this company got like 25,000 quid to develop it. So that's one of the funders. Welcome Trust is another one. It's basically science-based games. So, for example, here's a game that was funded by Static Games called Mendel's Farm. It's based on real-life DNA. So everything in the game is kind of, think Farmville mixed with science, really. So it's kind of, everything is accurate. So if you mix animals together, it's the proper DNA. They, again, have a lot of money to give out. They have calls for games as well, for particular games that they're looking for. They'll match you with a scientist who can help you get accurate stuff. So think about it. I mean, basically they're looking for fun games first of all. But if you're doing, for example, I don't know, a game on how the way that planets work in reaction to each other with proper gravity, that would be a reason to go to Welcome Trust and look for money. So that's a good one. Broadcasters, obviously on our doorstep here is the BBC, and I think we've got something from the BBC talking later, about stuff. But this is another example. Channel 4 do games based around their brand. So the Snowman was a very big free game. They had the Snowman and the Snow Dog as well, I think. They've also got, I think, a Made in Chelsea game, Woot. Which seems very popular at the moment, so yeah. But yeah, it's one to look out for, and they do sometimes put calls out on their website, so check out Channel 4. Games funds. App Campus is a really good one, actually, and one of our members, former Droid, are involved in this as well. It's basically an accelerator based out of Finland, and it's backed by Microsoft Nokia. And they don't just fund stuff from Finland, they fund all of the UK and Europe, and they also fund stuff as well. And it's obviously they're looking for stuff that's going to be good for their platform, so they'll look for a certain amount of exclusivity, but it's a really good thing to get involved in. So if you're looking for a little boost, you're looking for some expert knowledge to help you, then App Campus is a really good one. And if you talk to Fee at former Droid as well, she'll be able to give you the heads up on App Campus. She's here today. Platform holders, right, okay, obviously there are lots and lots of different platform holders, Microsoft, Nintendo, etc. The main thing to say about platform holders is that, for example with Sony, there are lots of different entry points for each platform holder depending on what you want. So for example, if you just want to self-publish, you're not interested in funding from Sony, you want to hold on to your IP, then you can do that. You should speak to Shahid at Sony. But if, for example, you want to be funded, you want to be exclusive on Sony platforms, then XDev, who are based in Liverpool, are always looking for very interesting kind of external development projects. They'll completely fund it, but they'll also want your IP as well. But obviously it's an incredible opportunity. So it just depends on what you want. I think it's really important as a developer to kind of think about what you want from your game. If you're passionate about the idea and you want to hold on to your IP, then the self-publishing and kind of other routes are probably better for you. If you just want to get your game out there in front of as many people as possible and get a name for yourself, then obviously going for XDev and going for sort of platform publishing is the best way to go. So think about that. Team 17 here today, I want to give them a plug because they're an indie. They're basically obviously famous for Worms, but they're doing a lot of publishing for indie games at the moment. And not only that, but they fund them as well. And they don't want your IP, which is brilliant. So I think if you're interested in getting... Because a major problem with publishing games is visibility. There are so many games out there now. It's like, how the hell do you get noticed when there's 10,000 apps being released on the App Store every week? One of them is by teaming up with a digital publisher like Team 17, who can obviously publicise your game across all their players. For example, Worms has hundreds of millions of players across the globe. It's a fantastic way of getting your game out there. They'll take a cut of the money that's made, but you know, as I say, 4% of something's better than 10% of nothing. So definitely worth considering. There are other digital publishers out there. Chilingo is one that's based. They're part of EA now. There's also some really good ones based in the region as well. So yeah, digital publishing is a good way of getting your game noticed. Private funding. Now, VCs or venture capitalists, they don't really like indies, to be brutal. They're more interested in the kind of investments that you see with Oculus, where they can put in 10 million quid and get 100 million out. So most VCs won't really be interested in you. But saying that, there are private investors, there are angels, there are folks out there that are interested in individual projects, in tech, in companies, and in individual games as well. So here's just one example, Standfast Interactive. They're basically, they're based in the Northwest. They fund games and they do it, I'm not going to go into the sort of complicated way that they do it, but there is money available. And they're very good, they're industry people, they know games back to front, so it's worth looking at their site to get some heads up on private funding. Crowdfunding, obviously everyone's heard of Kickstarter. Broken Swords is probably one of the biggest ones that's come out of certainly Yorkshire with Revolution. We also had one of our companies, Gaslight Games, get funded this week, which is brilliant, on Kickstarter. So it is a fantastic platform. There are obviously Indiegogo and other ones as well. I think the thing about Kickstarter and any crowdfunding, these are just a few tips that Charles Cecil passed on to me. Obviously make a brilliant video. If you haven't seen the original Broken Sword video, have a look, because it's a really good example of how to engage people and how to make get people interested in your project in a couple of minutes. Have physical perks, pledges at about $100 mark, so you encourage people to upgrade their bid. You can, if you start having sort of physical like t-shirts and box copies of games at sort of £15, you're asking for trouble, because remember that all the money that you make through Kickstarter has to fund all these t-shirts and everything that have to be manufactured and designed and sent all over the world. So it's good to have your physical stuff at about the $100 mark, which is about 60, 70 pounds. Obviously spell check, spend time on your site. Have realistic goals. That is something that's really important, I think, with Kickstarter. If you've got 100 followers on Facebook, you're not going to get 150,000 quid. It's pretty obvious stuff, but you know, be realistic. The guys at Gaslight Games who were funded this week, they went for £17,500, and they just made it with 17 quid to go. They sort of just made it over the line, but also they signed up to Ouya, which meant that they could double the money that they made through Kickstarter. So immediately they got 35,000 quid. So that's a good way of doing it. So you can be sort of smart about it. And platform holders love Kickstarter as well, because if you've already been funded through Kickstarter, it shows that you've proof of concept, people love it, that you've already got a fan base there ready to buy your game. So it's a really good way to go, but it's a lot of work and it doesn't always work out But it's a really good way of road testing ideas. If it doesn't fly, if you don't get the funding, maybe it's not a great game idea. So, and just a quick plug for the Game Horizon Investment Summit. Game Horizon in Newcastle is happening on the 7th and 8th of May, which is a fantastic business conference. This is part of the Eurogamer Expo. So if you go into the Eurogamer Expo in London, this is a separate business event. So if you buy a ticket for this, which is going to be less than 100 quid, you get access to talks from the likes of these guys, and you also get an opportunity to have formal meetings with funders. And last year we had quite a few developers who met these guys, and one of them met Creative England. They got £25,000 in funding from the event. So it's something to worth consider spending sort of less than 100 quid on, because you also get access to the expo as well, so you can play loads of games afterwards. So that's happening on the 25th of September 2014. And that's it really. Very, very quick, rushed, hectic run through all sorts of funding. If you've got any questions, I don't know how much time we've got, if I've used it all.
Plenty of time, about 7 minutes.
Brilliant, okay, so yeah, time for any questions, thank you. Yes?
Just to recap on the thing you said about the Ouya.
Yes.
So there was, did they get double the money, did you say?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a scheme that Ouya run. If you, I think you can apply to get, if you do a Kickstarter campaign, and if you get accepted as part of the Ouya scheme, if you get funded through Kickstarter, you can double your money basically. So it's worth looking at. And I think the Ouya exclusivity is only for about 2 or 3 months, and also you can still release on PC Mac at the same time.
Cool.
So it's something worth looking at. Any other questions about anything to do with getting some money in games? I mean, the main thing is obviously you're doing it all for love, aren't you? You're not here really to make money. You don't want to make millions. Is that right? Yes. Yeah. Cool. Okay. Well, I'll leave it there. If you want any more information, you can email me. Obviously, it'd be great if you want to join Game Republic, but get in touch anyway. Follow me on Twitter. That's it. Thanks very much.